which fund?
Yeah.
I liked your quote in the paper.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Chicken litter.
I don't remember either. Didn't even leave a message.
The Finance and Budget Committee will come to order, and JP Patrick Deacon will lead us in a prayer and pledge.
Thank you. Please bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight, and thanks for the many blessings that you've given this region of the world, this county, and the state of Arkansas. We ask that you watch over these proceedings tonight. Be with us as we make decisions that will impact the county for long term. Give us the wisdom and the patience to grapple with all these hard decisions. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Deacon. I would like to say just a couple of words about some things that happened at our last meeting. If in any way I offended you, I apologize. I will never let a meeting get out of order like that again, and I will not state my personal opinions. If I'm going to state my personal opinions, then I will turn the chair over to Patrick Deacon and then speak my opinions in that way, not as the chair. So if I've offended anyone, I'm sorry. So now we need to move on and adopt the agenda. I would like to move our elected officials up to after the presentation of our treasurer, and I don't know if we're going to have a report from Shannon tonight. He's gone home sick, and Nelson Driver. I would like to move those three elected officials with their budgets after Nelson Driver's presentation.
Motion to adopt and move the officials up in the agenda
After
Mr. Driver.
Okay. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Now, okay. We have, we adopted the agenda with that amendment. Thank you. All right. First person, Bobby Hill, our treasurer.
Good evening, everybody. 4.1, financial summary. General fund, the expenditures were about 2 to 1 over revenues for the month of September. The good news is year to date through September, if you compare it to last year, revenues are up almost 1.5 million, whereas the expenditures are up 1.1 million. So we're about 400,000 on the plus side so far this year. And I expect that to continue with when all the personal property taxes from October come in. Let's see, just down to jail real quick. Revenues came in over expenditures for the jail, and they ended the month with $654,000 in the bank. At the end of the next page, started the month $32.5 million in the bank, ended with 32.1. That's cash in the bank. 4.2. This was the first month of the internet sales tax. Kind of disappointed it was just up 4.7%. I do expect this month hopefully to be a little better than that, since I don't feel like everybody was in compliance in July, so I'm hopeful that the percentage will go up. If you compare us to Benton County was up 12.3%. Pulaski County was up almost 8%, and the state of Arkansas was 5.5%. So we're a little bit below all of them. 4.3, the jail tax, same situation there. They got 925,000 in. That's 180,000 so far year to date over last year. Losing my voice for some reason. 4.4, the road tax. It was up on almost 10%. 154,000 came in. That's 13,000 more than same time last year. 4.5, the property taxes received. For September, you can see up there at the top that we were actually down a little bit from 2018, but we just got the numbers in for this month, and we're 400,000 above 2018 for the month of October, so that's good. And let's see, and that's all I have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hill? I would like to ask you a question, and this has to do with the general budget, because we have a lot of questions about what should we have as a carryover for emergencies. We've gotten kind of low, so what would you recommend?
10 years ago, my old boss, Roger Haney, wanted 15 million. 15 million as reserves, but that's no longer feasible with the current state of our revenue versus expenditures. We're close, 5 million is what I would recommend. It doesn't look like we're going to hit it this year. It's probably going to be closer to 4 million, but that's doable. Last year it was 3.7 or 3.8 million, I can't remember. So if we can stay close to that for this year, I think that would get us along okay, I think.
Are there any questions for Mr. Hill? J.P. Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. Hill, do any of the projections we've seen include any monies from the daily fee or the potential interlocal? Is that any of that?
The one they sent you yesterday in that new packet, that's got in the jail. What's going on? Okay. In that package you received yesterday in the budget summary, it's in the jail. That amount is in the jail, about 500,000 is what I've put so far.
It's included in that.
That's included in it.
Okay, thank you.
J.P. Deacon.
Treasurer Hill, can you go over what would we need and what would require us to have a reserve? That would be some sort of, in my mind, natural disaster that we have to respond to, something unexpected of large magnitude. Is that correct? Could you educate maybe some of us on?
Well, if there was an actual emergency, that 10% holdback that we have to take out is eligible to be used. But that'd be the only situation. I don't guess technically you have to have any reserve, but it's.
Right, and I do believe it's prudent,
Thank you.
absolutely, to have some reserve. But I mean, what I'm trying to clarify here is where would we actually ever outlay that? It would be something catastrophic, is that correct?
Yes, if something.
Some major weather occurrence, some sort of act of terrorism or something like that, to where the county would have to outlay some money pretty quickly in large
Yes.
large amounts. Okay, thank you, sir.
I would like, excuse me.
I don't have a reserve pot over there. What you see in my reports that's the 100% of what we have, so just to be clear about that.
I would just like to reply to that question in that when we had $15 million in reserve, we had a parking lot out here that fell in, and we had money to build that parking lot. We had money to buy the Terminella building. If we had reserves right now, we could buy the radios for the emergency and sheriff's department and those kinds of things if we had $6 or $7 million in reserve. So, reserve really comes in handy sometimes. But, we decided to cut taxes, and so we really don't have much of a reserve. So when we have things like radios that are needed or a courtroom built, then we have to look somewhere else to find that money. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess we're ready. Carl, do you have anything for Shannon, or any report that you would like to report?
Madam Chairman, Shannon sent me a text probably 30 minutes ago. He's quite ill, expects to be back. He went to the doctor and got some medicine. Far as he said, the package is in your give out,
Handouts.
and he apologizes for that.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Driver.
Good evening, everybody. The insurance fund report that you've got before you in your packet, we began the month of September at $3,038,000, and we ended the month at $3,067,000. The fund continues to hold its own. The only unknown factor is how long will it do that. Right now, we're in good shape. It's been level for the better part of 2018 and 2019. Typically, we're going to see an escalation in claims filed on the insurance fund the last 3 months of the year, which is perfectly normal because that's when people are trying to get things done while they've got their deductible met. I don't foresee any changes required in the funding side of the fund at all this year. I think we're doing a good job and we're holding our own. One thing, if I might add to your question about the reserves, J.P. Deakins, there's been several occasions in the last 16, 18 years where the county has taken $1 million, $500,000, $800,000 out of reserves to fund the insurance fund. Fortunately, beginning in 2017, we've no longer had to do that.
Okay,
So
J.P. Deacon.
reserves are important for varied reasons.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Driver? J.P. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some questions about workers' comp.
Sure.
And the questions are precipitated by what I'm seeing in the budgets that I can't make compute.
Okay.
My first question, is the self-insured that we belong to under the same laws and regulations as a private sector self-insured?
Absolutely.
Okay, so every fall, they submit rates to the Workers' Comp Commission, and those rates get approved?
Yes, sir. The organization, the national organization called NCCI, which is the National Council of Compensation Insurers, sets the workers' compensation rates. They also develop and set the counties, the various counties and industries' experience modifiers. The experience modifiers are the multiplier that gets attached to the final book rates to determine what our premiums are going to be. Being in a self-funded program with AAC like we are, and Washington County was one of the founding counties that began this, enables the county to have a lot more flexibility from a standpoint of cutting out the, quote, middleman, so to speak, We don't pay the upcharge of about 40% that we'd be paying to a Liberty Mutual or another insurance company to cover their administrative overhead and their profitability part. Also, being a founding member of the AAC fund, we get a dividend check most years from AAC that can be anywhere from $35,000 to as much as $60,000 that we get returned to us, being participants in that fund. The overall, we just put the workers' comp out for bids for 2020, and I'm in the process of reconciling those as we speak. The thing that you get into with municipalities and workers' comps and your workers' comp programs, when you've got law enforcement and road departments, most private insurance companies run from us.
I get it. Let me ask a second question.
Sure.
How do the elected officials get those rates? Do you provide them for the elected officials or for our comptroller?
No, sir, I don't do that. AAC does that.
Okay. Then if AAC does that, and we know the rates by classification, and we know our payroll by classification, and we know our modifier, isn't it a pretty simple math problem to determine the budget?
It is. I can give you a proposed budget, but the problem, or the estimated budget, for instance, for 2019, 2020, but it's an estimated because we won't know until the end of the year exactly what the payroll is that's been paid out.
Oh, I get it, I
Okay.
get it,
All right.
okay. But what I'm saying is on day one, if we know our payroll, and we know our date, and we know our modifier,
Yes, sir.
we ought to be real close on day one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then when the audit comes in, I'm assuming they come and audit us sometime after the year, and we
February,
get
March.
we get an audit premium.
Yes, sir.
Okay. My struggle is I'm reading budgets and I'm looking at numbers where the actual expense and the budget that I'm being given aren't even close. And if we don't have the budget right, when we get our audit, how do we know whether the audit's right or not?
Well, that's a reconciliation situation between payroll, the comptroller's office, and the workers' comp carrier.
Okay, so what I think I'm understanding is we're not setting the initial budgets properly. This is what I think I'm understanding. Because our payroll isn't changing that much.
Well, payroll, depending on what y'all do with pay raises, obviously, but where we get into a situation, for instance, during election cycles, is one of the things, I don't know if you see this in budget or not, because I'm not involved in that.
Sir, I'm talking about
But
essentially jail and law enforcement and the road
yes,
department.
but in the event that we have a large-scale election, like, presidential election years and that type of thing, you also have to factor in the poll workers, which is a significant, event.
What's the comp rate for a poll worker?
I don't know without looking. I don't keep that.
Well, okay, that's not going to make the difference that
No,
I'm
sir.
seeing in the budget.
Probably not.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? If not, on risk management, well, that was the comp, we were putting out bids. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, we have just put out and received bids back on all the property and casualty for the county. We received the bids back in and opened bids last Friday, and I'm in the process of reconciling those and getting my recommendations to Judge Wood no later than Monday of this next week, and he'll make his decisions then, and that'll be part of his budget, his final budget, as far as the insurables are concerned. That includes all of the buildings, all of the inventory, equipment, everything.
Okay, are there any, any questions for that? If not, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Well, we're ready to start on our, actually, budget. I think Angela Wood is the first on the agenda, our collector. 4-9 and 4-10 are her first budgets. You want to just explain what you've done?
Well, I actually moved 100,000 from the general. I moved 2 positions over into my automation fund, so that'll lower what's coming out of the general for you.
Well, if you all look on 4-10, those are the positions that are paid out of county general. And she's moved 2 of those positions to her automation fund, which frees up a couple of $100,000.
100,000.
I hope, I was hoping too. No, 100,000, okay. So if you want to look at her automation funds, those are on 4-85 and 4-86. You want to explain what your automation fund is?
My automation fund is 10% of my gross commissions that will help, that goes into there to help pay for my office.
Okay, so it's fees you charge those people that you collect taxes for. And so to a certain point, you're self-funded.
Right.
Not completely, but because you've got about 700,000 now in salaries instead of 800,000. Is that correct? And you reduced your, in addition to that, you had reduced your budget by 20,000. So, are there any questions?
I have one.
Okay. JP Deacon.
First of all, I really want to commend you and thank you for coming up with moving these positions over to the automation fund. It really helps us out.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank you very much for that. I know a lot of times there's no reward for coming forward with some of these ideas, but I want you to know how much I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
I do have a question on the, this automation fund, the page 4-89. There's quite a bit of an increase request here for the line item 3009, other professional services. Can you just give me some insight on what we're looking at there for next year?
That's county clerks.
I'm sorry,
That's county clerk's fund.
Okay.
I'm on the wrong page.
Okay.
My previous comments still stand, though, that I do appreciate it.
Well, thanks.
Get me on the right
Yes, JP Duncan.
Hey, just a question on 4-85. Looks like there's one new line item 3005, special legal. Sorry if you explained that, I missed it, but what is that about, the $20,000 for?
That is so
2005?
if I have to seek outside counsel for my office.
Do you foresee needing to seek outside counsel?
I have used outside counsel some this year, so I wanted to budget for some next year.
Okay. How much have you spent this year? Because that's what I'm curious, it doesn't show. Obviously, there was no approved budget, but I would assume that would come in the expenditures line, just 2 lines prior to that.
We've probably spent a couple of thousand out of it, a couple of thousand out of my budget for that this year.
Maybe this is a dumb question, but forgive my ignorance. Why wouldn't you go through the county council?
Because it's easier to go through somebody else sometimes. He has other things that he has to do, so sometimes it's easier to seek outside counsel.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve this budget? Well, I've been told by my counsel here I can be involved, so I'll second that motion.
When you sit here for the judge, you vote.
Sorry, my advice was not correct. Okay. All right, so we do have a second. All right, any further discussion? Yes.
Just some understanding, so the non-PS that's on 4-85, it's showing an 8.1% increase, right? And that's non-personnel. So with personnel, we're adding a 10% increase. So up $42,000, $42,453.
No, it should be up to date. You're saying updated on 10/7?
This is the one, the 10.7.
So that was added, that was updated, so it was added in.
But so it is a $42,000 increase? Okay. I'm just having a hard time with the legal fees when we have legal counsel that's paid for already within the county. So I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like that needs to be worked out. So I'll be voting against if we're going to show a $42,000 increase, and half of the increase is something that is already a paid-for service through the county. So I'll be voting against. Thanks.
Okay, all those, I guess we need a raise of hands. JP Pond.
More on the legal counsel. If in fact you were in need of counsel and the county attorney was available and there was obviously no conflict of interest, would you still seek outside counsel?
No, if he's available, we use him.
Okay, just check.
Okay, I have a motion to pass this budget. Remember that these are only tentative, that unless something comes up later, we do not revisit these budgets. All right. Let's have a show of hands. All those in favor of passing this budget, raise your hand, please. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay. I guess that leaves you in limbo until the final budget process.
Okay.
Thank you. Russell Hill. $411 and $412.
I always do a little packet so we can
Okay.
follow along together. And I added salaries because we had brought before that motion last night, and so I added those in there so you could see what the impact would be for the Deputy 1 and Deputy 2 regrades from the Johansson brothers and the Amendment 79 administration. So I always like to start off by reminding the quorum court that we are a commission, the assessor's office is a commission-based office. That means that we are funded in direct proportion to the funding that we provide. We are the money train, and so everything that we bring in gets dispersed. So the schools fund 82%, the county's 9%, city 7.1, libraries 1.9. So that means for every $100 that we use to support this office, $9 is paid out of county general. And that's in my general stuff. There's some other stuff that is zero effect on county general, has zero effect on it. So then there's just who we are, what we're about. Wanted to share with you just a little bit of idea of what's going on in Washington County. New construction over the last 3 years, $500 million in 17, $629 in 18, and then so the growth is still going at $600 million here in 2019. Our job is increasing every year. If you look at the parcels, in the last 3 years, we've increased by 2,539 parcels. That's about a 2.38% increase over the last 3 years. The property values on average have gone up countywide, 28% increase in real estate. Personal property, we do have a lot of people that are moving into this area. And so 2017, you can see it broken down by online assessments, over-the-phone assessments, and then in-person assessments. 2017, we were almost 110,000. 2018, we're at 111,662, so that was a 1.4% growth increase over just 1 year. And then 2019, we're currently at 103,000, but we still have a final quarter of the year left, so we should surpass 2018. So again, we're growing, not shrinking. And then into the budget, I've outlined everything on the side. In red is stuff that has gone up. In green is where I was able to cut some things. Now, 2020, we're going to have our it's countywide reappraisal. And so we're going to have a lot of action across Washington County in the assessor's office. We'll be mailing out 95,000 notices to property owners. Our Board of Equalization will be booked for 2 months, kind of like this. We weren't expecting that this year with the vehicle mishap from the state, but we will have, it will be very, very busy for us in our office next year. So there's going to be a lot of some added extra costs on our reappraisal year. As we walk through, in red there, it says we're up 1,000 from last year. We're just going to use more paper, more ink. And the CG stands for County General. Impact on County General will be $90 out of that 1,000. And then the computer equipment, we need to, I've got everything kind of on a 7-year cycle on our computers. And so we've got some fax machines too. And so we're having to, we try to break it down into 3 different quarters of there. So we've got those on recycle. So I'm not coming to you 1 year and looking for $50,000 to replace 36 computers. We try to break it up. Just a historical average. We've been a little low there, had to move money over. So overall, out of general supplies, $4,340. That's a $390 impact. Special legal, there's your Mr. Duncan, there's your thing that you're going to ask me about, so I'll go ahead and answer that. So on special legal, since it is a reappraisal year, this is where we get hit. Last year we got, last reappraisal we got hit with the mall, and actually a year before that we got hit with the mall because they lost Sears, and so we went into a legal bout. Sometimes we have to hire what's a fee appraisal. We have to get a commercial fee appraisal. Those run anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. I'm really light on that. Pulaski County right now, they're in a battle with Walmart over the dark store theory. They've shelled out over $250,000 hiring outside counsel because in those areas you have to have someone who understands the appraisal process, and so you have to get certain attorneys that know how to dispute property values or hire expert witnesses to come in. I know Walmart they paid one guy $650 an hour and then another guy $450 an hour to just be witnesses, professional witnesses for them. And Pulaski, they hired these outside attorneys who specialize in property appraisal law to do that. So it's a unique wheelhouse that not is common practice for attorneys, and therefore that's why that special legal's there. I'm really, really light on it. Hopefully we won't have to use it. When the mall thing came down, I mediated that. I was able to do that with myself and my reappraisal manager, and we were able to come to a thing there. And then also Brian guided me along through some of that too, and helped us with the legal matters of that and wrote everything up for us. So it worked out fine. But just a safety blanket. Other professional services, we went over that this year. Sometimes we'll hire in some temporary help where we're just going through a staffing agency. Postage, yeah, we're going to be mailing out a lot more postage this year than last year, so. Let's see, we go through. The next page is the salaries that are affected by the grade changes, and so that gives you an idea of, now most of these, what we did is we broke the office up in 3 different sections, starting out this year with our, since we're doing this our first year, we started out with our entry positions. These are the people at the front desks. These are our lowest paid employees in most cases. Deputy 1, a couple of Deputy 2 assessors, but these are our least ones, and so they're minimal, very humble, you know, different things, moving from a 9 to a 10 or 11 to a 12 grade on there. And then we had a couple of supervisors. They didn't have any impact. Their rate didn't move up or anything. So, but that gives you an idea of where those people will fall. I think only one of them's, well, that's a branch manager, and he's been there 25 years. That's the reason he's up there as high as he is at 44, but all the others are in the 20s or 30s.
Okay, you want to explain the Board of Equalization, why that's under
Yes, yeah, the Board of Equalization, onto that budget. That one's going up.
413.
Going up 15,000, because they're going to be meeting, because we're going to have, typically on a non-countywide reappraisal, we'll have maybe 30 appointments. This year was different because of the vehicle thing, and so we ended up having a couple hundred appointments. Next year, when it's a countywide reappraisal, and I anticipate everything going up, because the market's just rebounded from the burst in 08. And we'll go from 30 appointments typically on a non-reappraisal to 300 appointments. And so I added up, if they were booked 4 days a week at $625 a day, because that's what it costs for all 5 to be there, for 2 months, it's $22,000.
Okay. Are there any questions about that department? All right. Amendment 79, page 488.
Oh, I did on the reappraisal, though, we dropped 76,000 on our on our other professional services, so we've got a reduction of 76,000 there. Amendment 79 has 0 effect on the county general budget. That is part of a half-cent sales tax that goes for the homestead credit, and so that money comes from a half-cent sales tax. I think that one's down substantially. It was very big last year because I used that money to pay for some capital improvements, a new server that we needed to upgrade because our other one was outdated, and then we picked up another big piece of equipment. So whenever I can, and it's allowable for me to do that, I will use. I mean, that's something that our entire office uses, but it is something that aids and helps Amendment 79 and the functioning of it. We have to have it to do that, so I'm able to purchase it out of that, and again, at no impact to the county general.
Are there any questions? Okay, 4-110, late assessment fee fund.
This is a fund, again, that comes in. It has 0 impact on the county general. It's a 50-cent late fee for every assessment after May 31st. So whenever the people do not assess between January 1st or May 31st, you know, if they're caught with a late assessment fee, 50 cents goes into that fund. It generates anywhere from $10,000 to maybe $12,000. I just set that aside and use that again for capital improvements, mostly for vehicles. I'll let it sit there and ride for a couple of years, and then we get 20,000 or so. We'll trade a vehicle in and then replace it with the other one. So.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, J.P. Deacons.
Sister Hill, let me ask you, when we're going about the budget process, yours is a little bit unique, like some of the others, because there's some cyclical aspects to that, right? Like
Yes.
certain years, due to the activity, reappraisals and stuff like that. The aim is just to put into the budget what is regular and customary or predictable, correct? Is
Yes.
that what you're trying to do? If the county went about and had something extraordinary, let's say we have one of these legal battles with a big box store or something like that, you would probably foresee having to come to the court and us appropriate some monies outside of that, correct?
I might have to this year. So I'm still looking as we're cleaning up the end because we had to mail out 84,000 notices that we weren't planning to because the state messed up on the values that they gave us for the vehicles. And so that impacted my budget by $42,000 that there was no way. This is unprecedented. This has never happened.
Sure.
For people, I've had people here for 25 years, and they said this has never happened. I think it'll be the last time it happens, too, at least for our lifetime. But yes, something like that came up this year, so that's $42,000 that I had no way to foresee, and it's going to be something where I may have to come to you guys and go, I'm going to need some help with this accident. But again, the impact is 9% to you, and we did make money on it. I mean, we would have lost $2.5 million if we hadn't mailed out those notices. Right. So it is, but it should have never happened. We should have never had to have done it, and that money should have been there to begin with, if it wasn't for the mistake of that. And yes, I always love to have reserves. This month, I had my road washed out. I had to spend $2,000 on that. My AC went out. I had to spend $6,000 on that. And my car went out. I had to spend $5,000 on another car for my kid. So $12,000 in 1 month. Luckily, I had some reserves put back, and we were able to eat this week.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Cesarville.
Are there any other questions? Okay, J.P. Duncan.
So, Patrick, were you getting at, like, potentially moving the legal fees, and then if there's a special circumstance, bringing that, like, him coming in front of the court, and then us appropriating money that way?
Can I respond?
Yes. I mean, that's what it's.
Well, here's my thought process by hearing you explain us the legal. I put a little bit in there. I'm really light. We might not use it. If we have to use it, it won't be enough. So I'm just kind of wondering what the utility of the
I put it in there in case, mainly that's more if we need to go out and get a commercial fee appraisal on a property. We just about had to do that with the Northwest Arkansas Mall, and that was a $15,000 bill. So.
And I guess what I'm seeing is, never as a quorum court would I think we would appropriate you the monies to go do that. So the only thing I would foresee that we would need in the budget is something that is an emergent and timely issue. That maybe it would, for us to meet and appropriate the monies, we could be a month out, right? Just from the way we operate and the way our meetings are held. But I don't see a commercial assessment or arming up for a big fight with a big box store will have the time to appropriate those monies, I would think.
Sometimes time is of the essence, especially when you're dealing with law and you have people coming in and coming after you. So having that there and ready and not having to wait a month or however long it takes to come before you and get that approved, it's good for me. It's good to have it there in case I need it. And I love to be able to give back at the end of the year. I do not want to be in the position where I'm asking you guys for anything at the end of the year. It killed me this year with the mail-outs that took place. But it was either don't mail it out, miss out on $2.5 million, or mail it out, take the hit, and
Is there an address at the state we could send a bill for that?
You're not the first one to ask that.
Maybe we should just send it, just to see if it'll get paid.
It won't. Ask the sheriff about the jail bill. He's been waiting to get paid.
Okay, J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Real quick, thank you for the notice that we got on my husband's truck.
Yeah,
We were
yeah,
one
yeah.
of them, so when I got it, I said, thank you, Russell.
Yeah.
But anyway, do a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to pass this budget?
Motion to pass?
All right, we have a motion. Okay, let's do a show of hands. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Kyle Sylvester. First thing I would like to do is to thank Kyle for moving 4 positions from the county to his automation fund, freeing up over $300,000 for the general. So, and I really appreciate it. You know, I've met with all these county officials and have asked for money where we can find it to be moved so that we can have more, hopefully enough, to give raises to our employees. All right, Kyle?
Thank you. Good evening, guys. So we'll start off with my general fund budget.
4546.
And so at the request of some of you guys, we went and took another audit of our current staff members. And we were able to move 4 positions out of the general budget into the recorder's cost because they do touch real estate. And I want to be clear about that. Anybody that I pay out of my recorder's cost has to have something to do with real estate or the recording part of the office. If they're strictly a courtside data entry clerk, I have to pay those folks out of general. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Also, when we redid the budget, looking at our current staff and looking at what was sent by the comptroller for our sheets to work with, not only did we drop out of the general budget a little over $300,000, but I also am not filling 4 open positions. So that's going to save about another $134,000 in salaries and benefits and insurance and things like that for the year.
Thank you.
So I assume that you guys have had a chance to take a look at these. I did send out an email, and I didn't get a whole lot of response as far as questions, but I did get a few, and that's great. Thank you. So I guess I'll just entertain questions.
You want to explain what the recorder's cost fund is and where that money comes from? That's on 490, 491.
Sure. The recorder's cost fund was put in place by legislation back in 2007. And so recording fees that come in for mortgages, deeds, plats, surveys, things like that, that goes into the recorder's cost fund. What that does is provide funding to offset any type of administrative costs, technology, things like that for the office. You are required by statute that you have to have it use at least 25% of that budget for technology. The rest of it you can use for salaries, supplies, things like that to operate the office. Several years back now, that fund became pretty unlimited at some points because it did not roll over into county general after so much. And I truly believe that my predecessors used that fund well by sometimes paying for insurance fees for the entire county for a year, just by that money, so it doesn't have to come out of general. Some really good things were done with those fundings, but several years back, they changed the legislation as to where if that fund happens to hit $1 million, so it's like a bank account. Once it hits $1 million, anything that is over the million rolls over into county general funding. So let me retract that again. It's like a bank account that has $1 million in it, and let's say that it's full, and we turn over to the treasurer at the end of the month another $174,000. Well, that $174,000 goes into county general, while keeping that one particular account capped at $1 million. So that's how the recorder's cost fund works.
Do you know how much this year has been rolled over into county general?
Spoke with Treasurer Hill earlier, and it's projected to be probably around $900,000 for the year.
Okay, so that really helps us out.
It's a great thing that our real estate market is going well.
Yes. Okay, J.P. Deacon.
Thank you very much for your help once again. I want to echo my comments that I made earlier about moving some things around to the automated funds. That really helps us out. And I also want to comment, I appreciate all the county leaders for reaching out to us and letting us come in and ask questions. There's just some things that I like to ask in an open meeting for the common knowledge of us and of then, of course, the public. Can you just walk me through this remodel? Just give us some background on this remodel that you're putting the justification in here, this $100,000 bill.
So last year, we went to electronic filing. And so all of our paper files are now, we now have the ability to be able to store them off-site. And over time, you do have the authority to go ahead and destroy those files. I shudder at the thought, and it probably won't happen while I'm here, I don't know. But having said that, normally we store civil, domestic, criminal files in our office in some very large rolling file cabinets. And so we were able to clear out an entire section of those, and we still have the ability to take out 3 more tiers of them and open up some space in the office. We're kind of landlocked, and it's been that way for a while. We've got a lot of space, but it's just really, it's poorly organized, and that's not anybody's fault. That's just how it is laid out over the years.
Technology has helped us out in that
Absolutely.
sense, right?
So it's going to free up a lot of square footage so that we can, what I would like to do, and with our different processes now, I want to be able to put staff members together where they don't have to walk from one room to the other to show somebody a document or ask a question or anything like that. So I kind of want to make the workflow of the office better. The first thing we do is replace the carpet because I don't know if it's original or not, but I like the carpet down here. It's nice, so we want to do the same thing. Remove the file cabinets and have the possibility to build a training room, a conference and training room that we don't have. Not only would it help us in-house training, but also we can have better staff meetings, things like that. I think that would help out, and that would take the place of where our larger rolling files are. But the workflow issue is probably the biggest. In that, we'll also add some security. We'll do some moving around to make the workflow of the office mimic better what we have in play now.
Gotcha. So this is just going to help you out in your continuous pursuit of efficiency.
Yes.
Can any of this work be done by county employees, or are you going to contract this all out?
I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to contracting or whatever. I'm going to talk to Building and Grounds and see what things that they have available. I know they're busy and things like that. I will be looking to people to kind of feel my way around contracting if I can. But Mr. Gonzalez and his staff will be the first people I talk to when we start that. Because I know they've done a lot of things here in the courthouse and the annex and other places, so they have the contacts that I don't.
Sure.
As far as supplies, workmanship, contractors, things like that. And we may even have accounts already with the county that we can utilize.
Right. And he may have some advice and some help on just contracting it out, correct?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your fiscal responsibility, and I hope you continue to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, J.P. Lemming?
When you say you got lots of files, how much weight's that? How many files do you really have in there? Is the third floor safe enough for all that?
Third floor is in good shape.
I mean,
a lot of our files are stored in a climate-controlled outfit up in Lowell called AIM.
so it's not here?
It is not here.
Okay, I was
No.
going to say, goodness. Thank you.
And so, having said that, I don't know if anybody was going to ask the question, but I did add $10,000 in
For
my general fund for that file storage, because we do have to pay AIM. We've got tens and tens of thousands of, physical files being stored. Criminal files you can't destroy at all, ever. Juvenile files has to have an order from the juvenile judge. Civil and domestic have timelines on them. And again, I guess I'm kind of old school, and I would just hate to shred a lot of things just in case the world goes flat. We still have physical case files. We still have a lot of records on microfilm, which According to the National Archives, that is still one of the best ways to save outside of paper, because you can actually see it. You can get a magnifying glass and see microfilm. It doesn't have to have an electronic medium to be seen. So a few things we've had to go up on just due to efficiencies. We're having to store files. But I think in the long run itself, doing some of the changes in the office is going to help. And we're finding that not only personnel-wise, but just the way we're doing business now.
Okay, J.P. Jenkins?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sylvester, I appreciate your use of the space. I have toured your office, and those file cabinets are huge back there, and I think that your plan for the use of space is a wonderful idea. And I'm curious, what will happen with those particular files that are in your office now? Where are they going?
The file
The cabinets with
Okay,
the actual-
I am working on trying to find a new home for them. I thought I had a new home with Crawford County, but I guess their judge turned it down due to space issues or whatever. I'm actually leaving tomorrow for Little Rock for my clerks convention down in Little Rock, and I'll be around most of the state's circuit clerks. And I'm going to kind of put it out, hey, does anybody need some rolling?
Well, what I meant was like the documentation within the cabinets. Are they already all scanned in?
One
and-
whole side, yes, everything we
Okay.
have is scanned in.
Okay.
So,
And then the rest were-
So if you remember looking back towards the university, you had
Yeah.
both sides of the room filled with case files. The entire left side, which is our larger cabinets, you can actually see completely through them because there's no more files there.
Wow.
All those are being stored in climate control storage.
Wow, you guys have done a lot of work.
They worked their tails off getting those things boxed up. It was great. We had fun with it too.
Well, I appreciate what you do. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you again for transferring those positions to the Recorder's Cost Fund and freeing that money up. I'm trying to get enough money freed up to give a small raise to all of the county employees, so I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any more
There was one
questions?
amendment I needed to bring up, and I
Oh,
don't think
okay.
it's on your paperwork. In the Recorder's Cost Fund budget, there's a final entry down at the bottom for an archivist records manager, and the salary was $59,121. I'm understanding that our archivist for the county has resigned. And so you can, whatever the cost, the $596,914 for the 2020 salary proposal should read $537,800 with the removal of the $59,121.
Okay,
And I'm sure that'll be updated prior to quorum court.
okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve this budget?
Move to approve the budget.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right, your budget's been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sylvester. All right, now we can start back with the original agenda. Let me get this out of the way. Are we on item 7? Okay. All right, we have a line item transfer request from the road department. On page 7.1. Mr. Gales, do you want to speak to this?
Carl Gales, Chief of Staff. There's numerous line item transfers from the road department. This is the beginning. What the road department is doing, we received our funds from FEMA on the 2015 Dye Creek project, which we had spent in 2016 and 2017. So we finally got the funds. We also have completed Brush Creek to the tune of about $1 million, and we have spent that out of the road department. So all of these line item transfers that you will be seeing is bringing the money from the FEMA Dye Creek project, which is $511,000, I believe. I don't have the exact numbers, into the road department to finish out the budget this year in a proper green perspective and not override the line items, because we've been spending all year long scrounging money from everywhere to absorb the Brush Creek project. So that's what you'll see here. And Brian has been working through this with Charles. I hope we've got all the figures correct. They both tell me we do. So that's what's going on. And I'm going to ask Brian how many of these they are. There's, what, 11 or 12 of these?
Well, we only,
This is a,
Line item
this is just a
transfers.
line item transfer that Charles put in, it looks like. That's not the ordinance that's coming up later on.
The ordinances are coming up later on.
we got 3,009 to 2027, and the
Yeah.
amount of 216,900, we shifted priority to pay for a dump truck support.
Right, this is our
So you
profession.
had money and you transferred it one line item to another.
Right.
It was over the 10% set by budget controls. And then we had 3,009, 2021, there's $36,234 dump truck support. And 4,005 to 4,004, 17,500 had to replace service truck.
Right.
So,
Madam Chair, move to approve.
all right, is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, line item, transfer request is granted.
Thank you.
Line item transfer request, Judge Joanna Taylor.
Thank you. All right, thank you for having me here tonight. I have moved all the money that can be moved within my budget, and I was over budget in our juror and witness section, so I moved everything that I could move to that, and then I did not have any money left to move to food, the food budget for jurors, and I'm anticipating having a couple of more big jury trials this year. So I'm asking to move $1,208 from 3 different line items to my food budget, and that includes a part-time salary of $750, Social Security matching of $58, and then common carrier of $400 to move those all to the food budget, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the line item transfers.
All right, any further discussion? If not, everybody in favor say aye. Aye. Line item transfer is passed.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're on number 9, an ordinance changing the title of personnel position in the jail budget for the 2019 and appropriating the amount of $1,734,096 to salary line items in the jail budget for 2019. All right, does anyone from the jail want to speak on this issue? The Sheriff Helder? I guess. I mean, it's, we went over this, I think, last night. Human Resource Administrator changed from a grade 19 to a grade 23.
Right. I think you stated it was 1,700,000 and some, I think it's
Yeah.
1,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
This position was transferred from Human Resources to our office last year, and was it this year's budget?
$1,734.96, not
Right.
1 million.
Right. Well, I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify. When it came
Yeah,
out, I was like, I don't know what
I
she's
mean-
talking about, but let me have it.
I need to watch my commas,
And,
my periods.
So at any rate, the position we have is, we've transferred the responsibility of HR for the sheriff's office to the sheriff's office. Basically absorbed one of Watson's positions. Now we've transferred money from a kitchen spot to fund that. We have a 19-year some odd veteran human resources person that's doing the job, doing a masterful job of managing over half of the county employees. I don't know what else I can say. I can field questions, but she is more than worthy of what we're asking for, and we're trying to keep her in the saddle.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your,
Wait.
oh, public comment. All right, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, we're on number 10. We have an ordinance increasing the salary of the Director of the Veterans Affairs and the Veterans Affairs budget for 2019. This was sent to Finance from Personnel last night. Do we have any discussion?
I'd like to move that we approve and pass this on to the full quorum court for adoption.
Do I have a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, J.P. Hires.
I just want to know if this, was this reflected in the budget for 2020, this position?
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that the,
I think, let's just not make any comments unless you have recognition from the chair, okay? Thank you.
okay, I just want to, I'm just curious because we've already approved this budget. So that means that that budget that we approved is no longer the budget we approved, correct?
Okay, no,
Yes.
this is something new. Mr. Gales, do you want to speak to this issue?
In line with the request from Judge Woods, this was not included in our 2020 presentation because at that time, Madam Chairman, you requested without any raises. So this is coming in at this time.
All right,
In our 2020, it will be updated.
okay. I think I asked for those to be set aside, and I
You
asked
did.
all new positions, and the only thing that, in the Veterans Affairs, Judge Wood did want a new position, and that was set aside temporarily until we see how much money we have at the end of the budget process.
That is correct, and we set aside the raise for him, and we set aside the new position, and we're still waiting for those to come before the proper.
Well, okay. I think the court hasn't been given a chance yet to decide whether there are going to be any raises or not. I just ask that we put these aside and try to get control of this budget a little bit more than what we have had in the past.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. J.P. Duncan?
So there's a motion and a second on the floor.
Yes.
So we have the opportunity to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, is there any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? Okay, public comment. All right, all those in favor of a raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passed. An ordinance increasing the salary of the county attorney and the county attorney's budget for 2019.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the budget. the request.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? J.P. Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a statement with all due respect to Mr. Lester and his job. I absolutely respect what he does as county attorney. However, in the letter from Judge Wood stating his reasons why he would like to give this $30,000 raise, it was basically talking about how the county attorney works over 40 hours a week. He's present at all quorum court meetings. And I just want to know, we all work hard in our respective positions in life. I'm a school teacher. I teach 25 third graders 5 days a week. I work nights, weekends, lesson planning, and assessing data and grading papers. And that also includes that I have not missed any quorum court meetings aside from when my son had surgery. And I only say that in comparison, just to say that, you know, there are lots of Washington County employees that work hard and deserve raises. And I understand Judge Wood's wanting to give his executive staff raises that he thinks they deserve, and that's his prerogative. Absolutely, I get that. And I know if my principal could do the same, she would stand up in front of everyone and ask for raises for all of her educators and all of her teachers that work hard every day. In a heartbeat. But I believe that this raise is excessive. I believe at a time when our county faces a budget crisis, that it is grossly irresponsible for us to vote for a raise of such an excess. There are hardworking employees throughout the county, like I said. I would like to remind you all that the court voted a $1 raise for bus drivers for Ozark Regional Transit, a $1 raise for the drivers. And like I saw in the assessor's packet, a branch manager who's worked for 25 years makes $46,000 a year. So I will, with that being said, and it is awkward talking about this, I want to also mention with the gentleman sitting with us, amongst us, so it's hard to talk about this in that position, but I will be voting no, and those are my reasons why. Thank you.
Any other discussion? J.P. Duncan.
I think it's all about what is the market demand, and the market demands a mean salary of $115,000. So if you look at the salary that's being requested, it's less than that. So I think we're still getting a bargain, and I think that we need to compensate fairly based on the mean pay. So I'll be voting for.
All right, any other discussion? J.P. Hires.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know if this raise was reflected in the 2020 budget that we already approved, or that we already passed.
No.
Okay.
It's not.
Thank you.
This is new money. I mean, it's not new money, it's being approved in 19. All right, J.P. Pond.
I want to recognize that any of these things brought to us, the need needs to be expressed. So on one hand, I appreciate that it's been brought forward, and I have no doubts that this is a necessary request in order to keep a representation for the county judge. But also, I know there's a need for us to follow your lead as chair of this and not bring pay increases and that sort of thing forward for to be finalized until after we get everything put in place that's what we might call no-brainers, things that are where there's not any great change. I see where you're going with that, and I want to follow your lead. So I'm not saying the timing's wrong for these things to be brought to us to recognize and keep in mind, but at this time, I don't intend to vote no but I'm gonna abstain from the vote. Because the timing's good for it to be brought before us, but the timing's not good to do anything that looks final on this pay increase. So I will abstain from the vote.
Thank you for your comments. I'm just going to make one comment. I'm a little bit disappointed because that's it. All right. J.P. Ecke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 years ago, when I was chairman of the Personnel Committee, when I first became chairman, we did an assessment of the roads department, the sheriff's department prior to their step pay increase, and we saw a big gap in their salaries and what skilled workers were being paid. At that time, I made a request of Mr. Johansson if we could look at all of our salaries and see where we are market value, and could you do an assessment starting with all of these officials, going into the roads department, then going into the sheriff's department, and where do we need to go to bring everybody up to market value? And that's what he's done. I mean, it's taken a long time. I mean, our personnel chairman is now Justice Pond, but this was supported by Blair Johansson. It's not something that Judge Wood, acting as the principal, is saying, I think this person deserves it because I think he deserves it. He works really hard. When you have a job assessment program, the way the state, the way the county has it, it preempts any kind of nepotism or favoritism, and it's based on skill, education, years of experience and whatnot. There's a criteria that's set forth. And based on that criteria, that's where you plug in the employee. Therefore, then you get whatever the salary is. This is not the judge just thinking, well, he's a good boy and I think he needs to get paid. This is based on the market value of what an attorney is. And that protects us as a county of any kind of favoritism. It's not that he deserves it, he's qualified for it, and because he's qualified for it,
I'm going
this
to
is
call
what we
the
should pay.
question.
Further
You
That-
have something
Excuse
new to add?
Yes.
All right.
So just two comments. I don't know if I am crazy, but I'm pretty sure we just approved two other raises. They were outside of budget cycle. So we all just approved those two, one for the sheriff, one for Veterans Affairs. Second, an abstention is the same thing as a no vote. So to me, it's very cowardly. So if you're going to abstain, just vote one way or another. Thank you.
I wished we would not make personal comments, and let's debate the issues and not make comments that could be taken as demeaning. All right. I think I'm just going to call for the vote because we could sit here, we've debated it, and we know how everybody feels, so I'm going to call for the public comment first. Yes.
I just wanted to flag the fact that the total appropriation.
Sir, would you go to the microphone, please?
Good evening, Court. I just wanted to flag the fact that the total appropriation for the ordinance should be 8129, just for the record.
For all of the positions?
No, for this one here.
Oh, a script, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? All right. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passed. All right. An ordinance increasing the salary of the Grants Administration, the Grants Department budget for 2019. All right. this increase to 59,613. And I believe the total appropriations is $887.
Madam Chair, I move to approve this ordinance and pass it on to the full quorum court.
All right. Do I have a second? Second. All right. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? J.P. Yanez.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Watson, I have a question. Just kind of reflected on this whole race process all day, just to remain neutral, that it's not a person that we're looking at, but position-wise. When I went back and reviewed, normally when we have a raise, the question that we ask in the quorum court is, hasn't it been approved through JSAP?
Yeah, these were all.
Is there any HR law that I want to make sure that we remain neutral when we're passing these raises? What should we look for?
When you say look for, you're talking about in regards to process?
Process.
Well, in regards to JSAP, we are allowed, when a raise or a re-rating of a position occurs, each grade is broken up into 4 quarters. And we are only allowed, JSAP committee I'm talking about, are only allowed to take it up to the top of the first quarter. Anything outside of that is when I present it to you at personnel.
Okay. And what justifications are made when those raises are handled?
That's at the discretion of the decision maker, be that, usually it's the elected official.
Okay, and so anyone in any department can come up if they have an employee that they wish to give a raise to and justify that raise?
That is correct.
And there's going to be a mean that's going to be analyzed for each position?
When you mean a mean?
So are we going to analyze the pay scale of each position and make sure it's within a range?
No, not really. I mean, the thing is that that's really at the discretion of the elected official, predicated on the person's length, their qualifications and that sort of thing, those variables.
So if we're fighting to keep a good employee, then that's up to the elected official?
Oftentimes, or to reward someone who's been there and probably hasn't been recognized for whatever reason, whether it's financial or positional or something of that nature.
Great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Public comment. All right, all those in favor of the grant, increasing the salary of the grants administrator, raise your hand, please. All those opposed? All right, thank you, it passed. All right. We are now on an ordinance increasing the salary of the purchasing manager in the general service budget for 2019. All right. I believe this increased to $48,905. All right. Do I have a motion to pass?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we pass this on to the full quorum court for approval.
Is there a second? All right, we have a second. Is there any discussion? J.P. Hires.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask, what will the difference be in the 2020 budget as a result of this?
I'm not sure. I will have to get with either Shannon Worthen or Bobby Hill tomorrow to see what impact this has on the budget.
Okay, so, but if this goes through and then later we don't approve the budget, we would be effectively taking someone's salary away that we have promised them? Am I correct?
Let me make a comment here. We have to approve a budget because if the budget is not approved by January the 1st, the courthouse does not open.
That wasn't my question.
Is that correct?
You have to, state law requires that you approve a budget.
Right. And if it's not approved, then, you know.
So if you
Okay.
approved a budget for less than what was in here, then it would affect people's salaries.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Public comment? Any further discussion? All right. Everybody in favor of increasing the salary for the purchasing manager, raise your hand. All right. All those opposed? All right. Motion passed. An ordinance changing the title of Deputy Assessor 2 to Amendment 79 Administrator in the County Assessor's budget for 2019.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve this ordinance and pass it on to the full quorum court for approval.
Okay, this is, oh, okay. Yes, these go to quorum court. I had my, okay. Any further, okay, we have a motion. Did I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second. Any further discussion? Public comment? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed. An ordinance changing the title of the deputy assessor. Did I just do that one? No. Deputy Assessor 1 to Deputy Assessor 2 in the County Assessor's budget for 2019. All right. Do I have a motion to pass?
Madam Chair, I move that we pass this on to the full quorum court for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Okay, public comment. Any discussion? Yes.
Is this something we can put on consent agenda for full quorum court?
Yes?
Would anyone else be appreciative of that?
Yes.
Okay,
We also added item 13.
yeah.
All right.
Sorry, 14.
So,
Right now,
We just pass it right now,
Your-
and
the
then we
motion on
can
the floor
make
is
the
just to
motion
pass
at
it.
the end of the meeting. All right, I have a motion and a second to pass. Public comment? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passed. An ordinance anticipating additional revenue of $929,761 in the DIM grant fund and appropriating the amount of $929,761 from the DIM grant fund to the various Homeland Security budgets for 2019.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Public comment? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carried. And, okay, we're on number 17, an ordinance reducing the total amount of $145,000 from the Rural Community Grants Fund and appropriating the amount of $145,000 to the asphalt line item in the road department budget for 2019. Okay, do I have a second? All right.
With the due pass recommendation, Madam Chair?
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment? Any discussion? All those in favor say, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passed. An ordinance anticipating revenue of $53,000 in the Arkansas Heritage Reservation Program, AHPP Grant Fund, and appropriating $53,000 to various line items in the AHPP budget for 2019. All right. All right. Do I have them? Yes.
JP Ecke wants me to say it, so I motion to pass
All right.
with a due pass recommendation.
All right. Do I have a second? Yes. All right. Public comment. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passed. An ordinance recognizing the amount of $67,500 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2019 and appropriating said amount to the Road Department budget for 2019. Do I have a motion to pass? All right. Do I have a second? Any discussion? Public comment? All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passed. An ordinance appropriating additional revenue of $88,371.49 from the general fund to various line items in the sheriff's budget for 2019. Do I have
Madam
a
Chair,
All right. Do I have a
with the due
second?
pass recommendation, second.
All right. Any comments? Public comment? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passed. I think, yes.
I move that we add items 7 through 20 to a consent agenda for full quorum court.
Second.
All right. On the consent agenda. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passed. Is there any public comment?
Is this the last thing?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Beth Koger from Fayetteville. I just want to kind of speak to something that I said last night. All the raises that have been sent on to the full court tonight, those people already make a really good salary. And while I'm not saying they don't deserve a raise, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'd like to see the court not approve any of those raises until the people, like in the road department, the maintenance department, the people on the lower pay scale get a raise. And the other thing is, I don't think we should be putting these raises on the consent agenda, because doesn't that cut down on the amount of public input? Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, you just voted for it.
Yeah, you just voted for it. Okay. Any other public comment? All right, I think our next budget meeting will be the 24th. We have the public defender and the prosecutor. They're asking for 5 positions between them. Need to consider, anyway, I have asked the legislators to be here to hear their reasons of why they need the money, because this is positions that should be funded by the state and probably will not be. But, we need to at least ask them to help fund them. All right, are there any other comments?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All right, we are adjourned. Everybody in favor of adjourning, raise your hand, just for the, all right. All right, we are adjourned.